So now let's try to work out on the output. Okay. And before we work on the output, we need to have the input so that we can really test, what's going on. Okay. So before I do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create some text file. And the first test file that I'm going to have is the course grade. Okay. I do a copy. And I do a paste. Okay. And then I'm going to save it. And the name that I have is called coursegrade.txt. So that would be coursegrade.txt. Okay. And let's try to create another one. I create a text file, and this one that I like to have, they called studentrecords.txt. And I'm going to save it. Record.txt, right? And we get both of them in. How could we generate the output? We really need to look at what's the specification here. The first, we need to get the grade report. Okay. And there's one thing that I missed. In fact, how could we compute the class average? Okay, we need to do that also. Okay, we compute the class average. Okay, and we figure out how could we do that a little bit later. Let's try to compute. We see the grade report. Okay, how could it compute the grade report? Essentially, this would be a pretty easy task for you to do. All you have to do is you go through each and every student and try to see whether or not they have the grade information in. If they have the grade information in, you are going to display that information out. And what we are going to do is let's try to compute the class average in this loop also. So we have a byproduct, okay, that we would figure out the average at the end, okay? So let's go back to the record main. And what we are going to do is we need to go through all the students. So what we are going to have is we have a list of student record. Okay, and here our record is equal to the record manager dot, we try to get the records, okay? Or probably you like to encapsulate and then use a get records, okay? And organize the import. And we see while, let's do for int I is equal to 0, I is smaller than records dot size. And then I'll let I++. What I'm going to do is if you just look at, I need to generate ID, name, average, grade, right? So what I'm going to do is I will say, okay, first I would get the student record. Student record. I get the record. I try to see whether or not this guy has grade or not. I see if the not get ID, because we don't have to worry about ID. We need to look at the grades that this guy has, whether or not this guy has grades. If this guy has grades, it means this grades will not be equal to now. If this guy is equal to now, what I'm going to do? I'm going to continue. So you need to understand what's the keyword of continue. It would essentially terminate this iteration, but it would go to the next iteration. Okay, so it would skip the I essentially. And after this point, it means this student has grades. So what I need to do is I would system.out.println. First, I'm going to print the ID. Then I'm going to have a tab. Then I'm going to have the name. I'm going to have the what? I have a tab. What's next? Average. How could you do the average? So it would be R dot. Let's do this. It would be R dot average grade, right? So let's compute the average at this point. We see double average is equal to R dot average grade. And then we have this average. The last one is the letter grade, right? With R dot letter grade, we use that average. I'm sorry, this would be the ID would be R dot get ID, and this one will be R dot get name. Okay. And we are done for this specific line. And what we are going to do is, before we do all this, we need to make sure that the header would be generated. So you are going to say system.out.println. So the first one is ID. Then you have a tab. Then what's the next one? Name. You have a tab. Average. Oh, it's a grade, right? What? Average, okay. So we try to do exactly the same thing as in the requirement, and then we have the grade. And think about this, and let's try to run it for the very, very first time. We may have mistakes, but whoa, we didn't. Hopefully we didn't. Is that correct? No, don't worry about that part yet. Okay. Just look at the calculation that we have. Are these all correct? Okay. Let's don't worry about that part. Okay. And we are going to figure out that part together. And what I like to do is I like to compute the total average also. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a total sum that I have as a sum is equal to 0 at the beginning, and here I'm going to see sum is equal to sum plus what? Plus average. But you need to keep track, how many I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a counter is equal to 0 at the beginning. Every time you are going to increment, you are going to add the average in, you need to increment the counter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let class average is equal to something. So I'm going to system.out.println. Let's see, class average plus, that would be sum divided by count. Okay? And let's move on to the next one. Then we would come back. We say, whenever you implement something, you will not be able to come up probably with a perfect solution, or sometimes you will find, okay, I get something, I get the result. Why my result is not correct? I just forgot to sort this based on the descending order. Okay? And when you come back, you will be able to add to your solution very, very easily if you have a good design at the beginning. If you don't have a good design at the beginning, you will be in big trouble. Okay. And let's look at the next thing that you are going to do is try to compute this one. That one will be very, very straightforward, right? This one would be very, very straightforward, right? And what's the requirement? It would be in the increasing order of the student ID. Okay, so what we are going to do here, let's do this. We need to sort the student based on the ID. I already posted a tutorial online, see how could we sort a collection using comparator. Okay, I already posted online. And let's just do that another time. We say we like to do collections. In fact, we cannot do collection. Oh, it is collection. I'm sorry. Collections dot sort. What we are going to sort is we are going to sort. No, it would be records, right? We are going to sort the records here. Okay, that's the list that we have. Take a look. That's what we are going to sort. We are going to sort this list of records based on their ID. So we sort these records. And we have a comparator. And what's the comparator? It would compare student record. And I'm going to have organize the import, then I'm going to add the unimplement method. Okay. So here you are going to compare based on their ID. And let's take a look. Are they in the increasing order, right? So that would be easy. So what we are going to do is, this would be extremely easy, in fact. All we have to do is just return arg0 dot getID minus arg1 dot getID. And that's it. And after this point, we can just go ahead and do the output for the student records. And let's go ahead and do that. We see system.out.println maybe at the end you need to fine-tune your tabular format or things like that a little bit. Okay, that's not the focus. Even if you misaligned a little bit in your exam, there's no problem at all. Okay, that's the minor details. Okay. And then we have a follow-up to have everything out. And what we have here would be let's first get the record, okay? Student record. R is equal to recs.get I, and the first one is the ID. So we see r.getID, but I need to have a string to get started. Then the next one, I'm going to have the tab name. Then the next one is credit hours, right? So here we need to go back and revisit this one a little bit, because the student record, initially we only have 4 getter and setters. We need to get the updated GPA, right? That's what we are going to do. So we are going to go to the source and we say, okay, add another getter, and probably we don't need a setter. Okay, and we click on OK. You have a getter at the end. What I'm going to do here is we see r.get updated GPA. Oh, in fact, before that, we need to have the credit hours, right? Did we have a credit hours before? Did we update the credit hours? We didn't, right? So you need to be very, very careful here. What you need to do is you would see r.get credit hours plus a 3, because you do need to have an extra 3 at this point. Okay, this one is essentially is a problem probably in a larger context. So you're ready to say, oh, why don't you store this information somewhere? Because we don't use it anymore. Okay, so this one, the problem is standalone here, but probably in the real world it would be in a larger context. And we do this. Student record, get updated GPA. Okay. And what's going on here? Let me so if you take a look, I have the ID tab, name tab, credit hours tab, plus r.get updated GPA. Get updated GPA. Did you see anything wrong? Yeah, extra parentheses somewhere. We get rid of this. There is nothing wrong, right? Okay. Plus r.get updated GPA. Okay. I don't know what's going on wrong. Okay. And that's it. And what we can do is we can go ahead and write. And gee, what's going on here? Why the GPA did not? Oh, that's true. Let's take a look at here, and we say calculate the GPA. Right, exactly. Let's do the updated GPA here. It's equal to that one. And what you are going to do is you go back and do it again. And you say, return updated GPA is equal to the accumulated divided by credit hours plus 3. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We did not compute it yet, right? So what we need to do is we do need to do the computation. We need to see R dot calculate GPA because we didn't compute. That's why you will not have the result. And now if you try to run it, you will say you get the correct result. Okay, and if you would like to format the double number to format a little bit nicer, okay, you can figure out how to do that, by just doing a output format. Okay, let's look at the last problem is because the output for this one was not sorted based on the descending order of the average, right? So how could we do that? Okay, and you need to be very, very careful with this. Okay, let's talk about that. We can definitely do that. Okay, but when you do the sorting, okay, how about those folks do not have an average? So you need to be really, really careful. You look at this. Now I'm going to compute the average, okay? How could I figure out those things without an average? Because, you look at this. There are 7 students here. There are only 6 students with grade. Okay? Let's go ahead and come here and we do a sorting. Before that point, what we need to do is we do need to compute the average first, right? Right? So after that, we are going to do the sorting. But what we are going to do is we are going to do the print a little bit later. Okay? We will need to do the print a little bit later. So what we are going to do is we are going to come here. I copy, paste, but what I'm going to do is I will simply ignore this guy if it does not have grades, right? And I do not have to worry about the counter. I do not have to worry about the sum because that had already been taken care of in the previous one. And here, I do not have to worry about the output here. Okay? Okay? And when you do the sorting, you need to, let's go ahead and run it. Oh, I'm sorry, because the sorting is not correct yet. The sorting we need to. How could we do the sorting here? We need to do double diff is equal to the student. The first one dot get average. We don't have get average. Let's do that. That's called calc. No. How could we get the average? Average grade. Okay, that's the name that we have, right? Minus arg1's average grade. Okay? And we are going to do see is if the diff is greater than 0, what we are going to do? Return 1. Else, if diff is smaller than 0, we are going to return -1. Else, we are going to return 0 because they may be equal. That's the requirement. And now you try to rank. Hmm? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You are asking for descending order. How could you change to descending order? Okay? And when you look at this, you still need to think. The reason that the result would be correct because when we compute the average here, okay, for the student record, for compute the average. If the student do not have an average, it would have a 0. So it is guaranteed these folks would fall down, but we will never output this guy because it does not have grading information. That's why this process would guarantee that the result would be correct. Okay? It's not just by accident it is correct. We know it is correct because based on what we have done. Okay?